Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
I had just overheard a couple of guys at the lakeside lodge talking about my wife, Rachel, who had just stepped into the restroom. Their conversation was anything but respectful, and it instantly put me on edge. Lakeside Lodge wasn't my usual hangout, but Rachel and I had stopped there for a beer after she picked me up from the National Guard Airport in Little Rock. I had just returned from 2 weeks of active duty with the Army Reserves. I'm Captain Elliot Mason, U.S. Army Reserves. 3 years ago, my life looked very different. Back then, I was 12 years deep into active duty, having served 3 tours in the Middle East. My last deployment changed everything. I came home from that tour not only with a permanent limp, a reminder of the IED blast that had shredded part of my leg, but also with the heartache of escorting my best friend back to American soil. Sergeant First Class Jasper Collins wasn't just a fellow soldier. He had been my best friend since grade school. We'd been through everything together, from troublemaking as kids to facing hell overseas. But Jasper didn't come home alive. That roadside bomb took him away in the blink of an eye, leaving me to carry the weight of his loss. I escorted him back in a silver-colored coffin, the stars and stripes draped across the lid. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. After Jasper's death, I left active duty and transitioned to the reserves, but the scars, physical and emotional, still lingered. Jasper left behind Rachel, his wife, a woman who shared his love for motorcycles, tattoos, and the open road. Rachel and Jasper had been deeply immersed in the biker lifestyle, riding together and living by the code of the brotherhood. While I wasn't as heavily involved in the biker scene, I had my own connection to it. I rode an old '88 chopper, a Frankenstein machine pieced together over 5 years with whatever parts one could find. The heart of the bike was an '89 1,338 cubic centimeters shovelhead engine, reworked to push 1,400 cc's of raw power. My one tattoo, a soldier urinating on a raghead in a sandbox, adorned my right pectoral, a controversial, albeit darkly humorous, reminder of my time in the desert. Jasper made me promise to look after Rachel before he died, and I've done my best to honor that promise. About a year after we laid Jas to rest, Rachel and I got married. It wasn't something I had planned or even considered while Jasper was alive. He was my best friend, and Rachel was his wife. That made her off limits, no questions asked. But after he was gone, it became clear that the best way to protect and care for her was to bring her into my life as my wife. I'd always liked her, but it wasn't until we found ourselves navigating grief together that our bond grew into something more. That brings me back to those 2 drunks at the Lakeside Lodge. They were loudly talking about the biker bitch's new tat, describing it in crass detail. According to them, it was an image of a guy with a lawnmower trimming a chunk out of her crotch hair, starting on the right and cutting toward the left. I was floored. I'd never seen or heard of a tattoo like that. Believe me, when we got home, I was going to find out if what they were saying had any truth to it. We were about 25 miles from England, Arkansas, near the Clinton National Airport. Rachel had picked me up there after my return from Fort Hood, Texas. The airport in our small town wasn't big enough to handle the military jet that brought us back. We decided to stop for a drink before heading home, and Lakeside Lodge, a place I didn't frequent, seemed like a good enough spot to wet our whistles. I looked over at them again, and I recognized Chad Gaspard as someone in Rachel's real estate office. I wondered what he was doing clear up here. I was still dirty from camping out for 2 weeks in the sand and scrub brush of Central Texas, and had my BDUs on as well, which made identification a little iffy, plus the dimly lit bar. When Rachel came back, I said, "Let's hit the road. I want to get home to take a well-deserved shower and sleep in our bed again." Rachel glanced over to the 2 drunks. She suddenly agreed and quickly turned away from them and headed for the door. Well, that looks suspicious, doesn't it? I thought so too. I drove the rest of the way home to England and just put the car in the garage. I could get my gear out tomorrow. I stripped off in the garage and went to the master bath, naked as the day I was born, and then turned the water on as hot as I could stand it, and let it wash away the 2 weeks' accumulation of dirt and grime off of me, and wondered what I was going to do now. When Jas was gone, the brothers and sisters of the club kept an eye on Rachel, but now that she wasn't part of that club any longer, and since I was not a patch holder, there was no one to watch over her, except me. But who watched over her when I was gone? Now came my problem. Do I jump her bones, or do I just pass out from the relief from being home? I decided on the latter, and I collapsed on the bed nude after my shower, and just laid there. Rachel came in and tried to roust me, but I was having none of it, and sleepily begged to be left alone and to let me sleep. Rachel later got undressed, cuddled up to me, and went asleep. I woke up and saw her still asleep beside me. Then I saw it. There was a new tat, and it was the lawnmower. Well, I guess I will ask who gave her the tat while I was gone. It normally takes at least a week for the tattoo to heal, and since I have been gone almost 16 days, it's no wonder that Chad knew about the new tattoo. That night, I pounded her for all I was worth, thinking that I would show her what she made me feel. Hey, Elliot, a little easier, okay? You don't have to make it all up in one go. I know you've been gone a while, but ease up a little, okay? I'm sorry, babe, but I wanted you to get something out of it. I'm still on kind of a hair trigger. I'll do better next time. I wanted the last time to be a real eye-opener for her. By the way, Han, what's with the new tat? It's not that I don't think it's cute, but who gave that one to you? Was it Tom again? Tom was the one that had done the artwork on me, and on several of Jazz and hers as well. No, I had Julie do it over at Altered. Something like that I wouldn't trust a man, even Tom, to do, especially since you were going to be gone. I got it right after you left, since I knew that we would be bumping ugly as soon as you got home. I wanted to be over the sore part before you got back. The next day was Monday, and we both were supposed to be at work, so I put off any more digging to see what went on while I was gone. I worked in the IT department of a law firm. I approached my boss, told him that I might have a personal problem, and asked which lawyer was the best for divorces. He recommended Sophia Green. She was the most ruthless against women who had wronged a man. I called her office to make an appointment to see her. I was put right through to her, and she said, "What can I do for you, Elliot? You said this was personal, and since you are a valued member of this firm and just got back from your 2 weeks of reserve duty, I assume it's about a divorce due to adultery." Yeah, kind of, Mrs. Green. There is nothing I can prove, but I did overhear a conversation Saturday night in the Lakeside Lodge Bar and Grill up by the Clinton Airport. 2 guys were talking about my wife, and I gathered that at least one of them had been intimate with my wife while I was gone on this trip. I wanted to discuss fees and options available to me regarding dissolving my marriage. I'll tell you what, I have a client coming in at 9:30, but as soon as he is gone, I'll call you back and we can meet then. My next appointment isn't until 2:15 this afternoon. I take it you will need a good PI too, right? I suppose so, but I really can't afford much here. I'm not made of money. You let me worry about that part, Elliot. You just come in and we'll talk. Okay, Mrs. Green, and thank you. I'll come when you call me. Elliot, it's Sophia, not Mrs. Green. That's my mother-in-law, not me. Besides, we're co-workers. See you soon. I think I hung up even more confused than when I started this whole day. Why would a senior partner want me to call her by her first name? Maybe I would find out later. I tried to go back to work, then got a call that I had to go fix the new receptionist's computer again. I keep telling her that she can't download games on her computer anymore. We had added some software that precluded adding or linking with certain websites. This was one of my ideas, and we had saved a bunch of money on repairs and costly software so far, because of the people no longer adding porn and gaming sites on their computers. I finished up with the receptionist, and she got a call that Mrs. Green wanted to see me. I left Haley, the receptionist, with my parting statement. I have had to write this one up, Haley. If we have to come back again for this same problem, I'm not sure that you'll have this job anymore. Read the memo regarding the downloading of software onto our machines. I left walking down the hall to Mrs. Green's office. Rachel Donner was Sophia's PA. She announced me and I went on into Mrs. Green's office. Sophia was an attractive lady about my age, mid-30s, nice figure, and seemed fit. She rose and came around her desk, shook my hand, then we moved to her small conference table. This was a 42-inch round table with 3 chairs around it. She took the one where there was a yellow tablet. I sat opposite her after she was seated. Okay, Elliot, tell me everything about yourself that I can't get from your personnel file. I went back to when I was active duty, giving her most of the highlights until today. She didn't ask any questions until I finished, but she did take a lot of notes. Right, now to this conversation you overheard. Do you remember it word for word, or just the highlights? I gave it back to her word for word. I did add that Rachel normally got all her tattoos from Tom at Anchor Tattoo over in Whitehall, but she said that Julie gave her this one, and the only Julie I recall is now up at Altered Images in Little Rock, up near where we were Saturday evening. Now Chad may have seen her getting the tat, but I doubt that. Chad is a known womanizer, but as far as I know, he is not into getting any ink. So, I take it you think he and Rachel have been intimate while you were gone. They both work at Patterson Realty over on Arch Street, right? Yeah, that's right. There are probably 4 salespeople there, plus Mr. Patterson and a receptionist. But Cal Patterson isn't always there. He has another office down in Sheridan and one in Whitehall. So, he is only there when they close on something, as he is their only broker. He does come into each office at least once a week to see how things are going. Okay, Elliot, here's what we can do. I have an investigator that works for me. He's not expensive, and I can roll that expense into my fee as I will pay him directly. For right now, let's let things go along like normal. That means normal relations at home, as much as you will hate to do that. However, I would get tested for STDs very soon, and if anything comes back, then we can considerably speed things up. I don't see any children listed, so I assume you two are childless right now. Let me give you a list of things to look for, and get any information to me as soon as you can. One thing to look for is crusty panties that you find before you have relations with her, or afterward for that matter. We'll get your DNA from the STD tests. This will give us some leeway if we can find out whom, and how many, she is messing with. We will need some blood, saliva, or hair from your wife to compare and eliminate her DNA. It may show up in her crusty panties, but maybe not. I know this is getting a little close to a line you may not want to cross, but it really needs to be done. Also keep track of when you have relations. Time and date are very important. I will need to talk to you about finances, but that can wait until tomorrow. I'll have Rachel make a mid-morning appointment for you. But most of all, I hope this is all a bit of wasted energy and time. I am truly sorry that you have been forced to come to me for help. With my help, we'll make it through this together. Thank you so much, Mrs. Sophia. You have made my mind rest easier just knowing I can do something that will let me know for sure. I'll see you tomorrow. Mrs. Green had handed me a folded-up piece of paper, and I folded it again and put in my rear pocket. I made sure that I left it at work, but I did very thoroughly read it over. Since I was still in the reserves, I didn't have any pension as yet. I was working toward one, but nothing was set in stone. I would get no pension if I quit the reserves today, so there was no way Rachel could get a part of that. I really hadn't been working as a civilian for that long, so I hadn't been able to build a big nest egg. I had potential if I stayed at the law firm long enough, or if I moved on with a bigger company. So, my losses wouldn't be big if I did the divorce thing. The house we lived in was my dad's place, that he had given me in his will when he died during my second tour in the sandbox, so that would be free and clear. If you took a total of yearly income, we made about the same, so alimony would be a wash and there's no child support either. That would mean that we would have to split the small savings and the regular checking account. I did have some money stashed away for a rainy day, but that was in my mom's maiden name in a safe deposit box that I was a signee on. The box wasn't in my name and I hadn't accessed it since I married Rachel, so she didn't know about it. That was money I had saved and sent home to my folks when I was overseas. In fact, I really don't know how much there was. I would have to find out after this was all over. Mom was still alive, but in a nursing home up in Little Rock. Nursing home, you say? Yeah, I was a late-in-life baby. My mom was 42 when I was born, so she is 75, or maybe 76 now. I'm not really sure. I know her birthday is October 15th, but I'm not sure what year. I could look it up, but I might tip someone off. I know I pay her box rental in cash each year, so there is no trace of that either. That reminds me, I need to check on when that rental is due. I think it's fairly soon. The rest of the day went smoothly. I went to the free clinic, got tested for STDs, and Rachel wasn't home yet when I got there. I called and got her voicemail that said, "I'm out showing a property right now, but please call me later or leave me a message. I'll get back with you as soon as I can, and thank you for calling." Okay, that was new. When I usually call her cell, it either goes directly to voicemail, with no message other than the canned one, or she answers. I called the office and the receptionist said that Rachel was out showing some properties with Chad. Oh boy, now I have a real problem. I knew that sleazy son of a bitch was hitting on my wife. Goddamn that bitch. She was reverting back to her old ways before she and Jazz tied the knot. She was a real 304 in the club she was a part of back then. Jazz told her if she wanted him, she had to give up all this whoring around and be only his bitch. I guess a leopard doesn't change its spots forever. Getting rid of her might be easier than I thought. Wait, she isn't a hooker. Hookers get paid for sex, 304s just does it for fun. Anyway, I did talk to one guy at work that had gone through a divorce, and he said that to keep from the bitch, I should say I pulled a groin muscle and can't do it right now. I thought about that all the way home, and I thought that I could say I lifted a computer box the wrong way, pulled something, and I would need to see the doc to get it fixed. Hey, great idea. I never would have thought about that, but it could sure work. I started fixing myself some supper at 6:30, as it looked like Rachel wasn't going to be home in time. I had just sat down to eat some macaroni and cheese with Spam when she breezed in the back door. "Oh, you couldn't wait for me to get home so we could eat together, huh?" "Rachel, honey, I called and got your voicemail message and figured you would be late. So I waited as long as I could, then made this. It's still hot, so I can fix you a plate." "Not right now. I'm all hot and sweaty. I need a shower before I eat." "No problem, sweetie. I'll heat some up for you after your shower. You go clean up and we can eat together, okay?" I was trying to be really nice and sweet to her so she could think nothing had changed. Yeah, that'll be okay. See you in a bit. I put my plate in the microwave and went into the bathroom with Rachel to help her shower. As I followed her, she turned and said, "What are you following me for? I don't need your help taking a shower." I got this hangdog look on my face and said that I just missed her so much and wanted to maybe have some shower sex. Not tonight. I'm tired and sweaty. I showed a couple 3 different houses, plus some acreage this afternoon, and after tromping around in all this heat, I am done in. Maybe we can catch up in the morning if you're a good boy and leave me alone tonight. Okay, honey, but I can just scrub your back for you if you want. I said not tonight. Now go heat my supper up. I'll be out in a minute. Yes, dear, I said a little sarcastically and left the room. I did notice her panties on the hamper, and they looked wet. I went into the kitchen, grabbed a plastic baggie, snuck back to the bathroom, took those panties, and bagged them. I then reached into the hamper and took out another pair to put on top. These were crusty too, but I had fresh ones now. I put the baggie in my briefcase and went back in the kitchen to heat up another plate for Rachel, the cheating bitch. Rachel came into the kitchen just about the time that the timer on the microwave dinged. I pulled her plate out, set it in front of her, and asked what she wanted to drink. "I need a beer tonight. It's been a bitchin' day, no? Make that a stiff rum and coke? God, I hate tramping around that damn swamp Barger is trying to sell." Now, I knew Barger's swamp wasn't really a swamp, but it was a lowland area near that pond out on CR 524. It was a bit like a swamp in that it doesn't drain well after a hard rain. But 2 things didn't add up, as near as I could tell. One was it hadn't rained in like a month up here, and the other was that she didn't have mud on her shoes. Since she wore dress shoes and her legs weren't muddy, there were 2 reasons to think she lied to me. Add the soaked panties to that, and I came up with one cheating skanky 304. As I was putting the dishes in the dishwasher after supper, I bent over, groaned, and slipped to the floor. Rachel came over. "Are you all right, Elliot? What happened? Did you slip in some water?" "No, honey, I lifted a computer box wrong today, and I think I pulled something in my groin. I guess I need to go to the doctor to see if I have a hernia or something, but one thing I know for sure is that it really hurts." Now, believe it or not, biker bitches are not normally the most caring or nurturing people on the planet, but I really think that Rachel cared for me some because she genuinely seemed concerned about me and my pain. She helped me up and led me to the couch, while I really hammed it up and limped while crouched over. She ran back into the kitchen and grabbed a plastic bag of ice and a tea towel, then wrapped the bag in the towel and gingerly placed it on my jewels. "There, that should help with any swelling." "Damn, Elliot. You'd think that as old as you are, you would know how to lift a simple box by now. Jesus, can't you get one of the younger a-holes to do that kind of work for you?" "Baby, I'm the low man on the totem pole at work. I know, I've been there 3 years now, but everybody in my section has over 7 years there. I'm just now starting to get some of the respect that should be shown to me. So ease up a bit, okay?" "Okay, baby, but you're not as young as you used to be." "Oh, so I'm a feeble old fart now, huh? Are you looking for someone newer or younger to replace me?" Boy, was that the wrong thing to say. Rachel looked at me almost like I suddenly knew about all her screwing around on me. She got that deer in the headlights look, then stammered out, "Elliot Mason, how could you say that to me? I have been your faithful, loving wife for over 2 years now. I know I was a little wild when I was younger, but first Jazz, then you, has loved me so much that I couldn't go back to those ways again. I love you almost as much as I loved Jazz. How could you say that?" "Hey, baby, I'm so sorry I said that. I really didn't think that it would be true for 1 minute. I was just kidding around about you telling me I was old or something. I know you are only a year younger than me, so if I'm old, then so are you. I love you, sweetie, more than anything or anybody. Please forgive me. You'd better be sorry for that shit. Just for that, no sex for a week. Of course you can't for a while anyway. I'm not sure what kind of punishment that will be for you. But I might just tease you as some punishment. I'm not too sure about that, honey. If I have too much pain and stress in that area, I may do some real damage and have to wait even longer for any real loving." "Elliot, honey, do you really think that might happen?" "I really don't know, babe. I've never had this problem before. I need to see my doctor to see what he recommends. Do you think we maybe should go to after hours?" "Right now, baby, I think I need to just lie here with this nice ice you brought me and relax. If it gets any worse, I'll let you know and we can go down to the clinic, okay? Robbie, you know I love you and I'd do anything for you. If you think we should wait, then we'll wait, but I want you to go to the doctor's first thing tomorrow and see what's wrong. I don't want you waiting too long and finding out that something really bad is wrong with you. I already lost one good man. I don't want to lose another one. You hear me?" Yes, dear, I hear you. This sudden real concern for my welfare has me puzzled. Is she cheating or not? I really don't know. If she and Chad aren't doing the horizontal mambo, then how could he know about the new ink? I guess I will have to wait for the results from Sophia's PI. I tried to sleep in our bed, but I groaned when Rachel snuggled up to me and said I needed to sleep in the spare room. I left our marital bed and cleaned the spare bed off and tried to get some sleep. I think I finally drifted off to sleep around 2 a.m. I vaguely heard my alarm in the other room, then Rachel came to wake me. I dragged my weary butt out of bed and thought again that we needed a new mattress for that spare bed. That damn thing was pure torture to sleep on. I made it through breakfast and got to work. I met with Sophia and we had a long talk, and she let me know what I could do for now and what would be needed later. I explained that I had stopped at the free clinic yesterday and I told her about the groin pull. She laughed at that and said she would have to remember that. I also gave her the panties I had, and she said she would have them tested. I went back to work, then it was time to go home. Wow. Rachel was home by the time I got home and was puttering around in the kitchen getting ready to fix us some supper. She was pretty handy in the kitchen as well as in the bedroom, so I told her that it was definitely a groin pull and that I had to baby it for about 2 weeks, and maybe longer, if I tried to do too much, too soon, and he did say no sex for at least 2 weeks. I told Rachel that I would take care of her, but I couldn't have her do anything for me. At lunch on Wednesday, I called the bank and asked when my mother's box rent was due. It was coming up next month, so I said I would stop by and pay it for another year at lunchtime tomorrow. This was not the bank that we used, thank God. So, things smoothed out for us for a while. At the end of 2 weeks, Sophia had the goods on Rachel and Chad, and 2 other guys. One was a biker from their old club, and the other was a friend of Chad's. We had the evidence now, so I turned Sophia loose and Rachel was served at work along with Chad, his friend, and Mr. Patterson. Maxwell Briggs was finally found after a club meeting, and he was served as well. His wife didn't appreciate him being served, especially after she found out who the correspondent was. I had taken the day off when Rachel was served and had the locks changed on the house and the shed, and changed the code on the garage doors. I packed up everything of Rachel's shit I could find, put it in boxes or garbage bags, and left it outside on her side of the garage door. I had set up 4 p.m. as the time for her to be served. That was the usual time for Rachel and Chad to get together to do the dirty deed on the couch in Kyle's office each day that Kyle was not in the office. I finished up in time so that I could be outside when they got served. The server was a college kid, some gum-smacking girl that had a ponytail, torn jeans, and a smart mouth. I met her coming out of the Patterson office after she had served Chad and Rachel. Everyone but Maxwell has been served, Mr. Mason. Not to worry, I'll get him too. I know where he hangs out. If not, I'll just catch him at home. I'm sure he won't like that one bit. It's been a pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Mason. Oh, and just so you know, her blouse was inside out when I served her. Mr. Gaspard's fly was still down, and he had his shirt tail hanging out of it. Best of luck, Mr. Mason. It wasn't 2 minutes later that Rachel came rushing out of the office and stopped dead in her tracks when she saw me sitting on the fender of her car. She looked at me, then went back into the office and I left. There was no fight, no name-calling, or anything. I didn't even care to know why. I just figured that she just went back to her old ways again. I swore I would not talk to her again. She signed the papers, and when I saw her with her lawyer at Mrs. Green's office, she didn't speak to me at all when it was all said and done. She just hung her head and never looked me in the eye. Once everything was signed, I did say, Rachel, I just wondered what I did to make you go back to your old way of life. Was I that bad of a husband? No, Elliot. You treated me even better than Jazz ever did. But I went drinking with Chad one night during your summer camp about a year ago. I was horny, and it just happened. Then I couldn't bring myself to tell you. I guess I thought it wouldn't hurt you if you didn't know. I'm so sorry, and I do still love you, a lot. I'm going to miss you, almost as much as I miss Jazz. Goodbye, Elliot. I hope you have a better life than the one I gave you. I sat there in the chair, stunned, as her words echoed in my head. She really did love me, that much was clear. But I knew myself well enough to know I could never get past what she had done. Cheating on me with Chad Gaspard, of all people. Chad was nobody special. He wasn't particularly good-looking, successful, or charming. I mean, Maxwell? Sure, I could understand if it had been Maxwell. He wasn't just a big guy. Word around town was that he was big all over. I could almost rationalize that. But Chad? Plain, unremarkable Chad? That was something I just couldn't wrap my head around, and I guess I never would. Her confession left me in limbo, torn between the love we'd shared and the betrayal I couldn't forgive. It wasn't about the act itself, as much as it was about who she'd chosen and the lies she told to keep it hidden. I wasn't sure what hurt more, her infidelity, The fact that she thought I'd never find out. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Welcome to my channel, where every story comes to life. Dive into captivating narratives that spark your imagination. Let's start today's new narrative story. Ryan Carter. 35 years old, a dedicated financial analyst. He's calm, reliable, and always puts his family first. He believes in hard work, commitment, and love. Little does he know, his world is about to be shattered. Mia Carter. 32 years old. Ryan's wife. She's attractive, charismatic, and a successful marketing executive. Lately, she's become distant, often claiming work stress as the cause. What Ryan doesn't realize is that Mia is leading a double life. Jake Morris. 36 years old. Ryan's best friend since childhood. He's blunt, loyal, and always tells it like it is. When Jake sees Mia with another man, he faces the difficult task of breaking the news to his best friend. Ethan Brooks. 40 years old. A wealthy businessman and Mia's lover. He's older, charming, and offers Mia the thrill and excitement she feels is missing in her marriage. But appearances can be deceiving. Ryan Carter had always prided himself on building a life he could be proud of. With a thriving career in finance, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and a wife who was as stunning as she was ambitious, he thought he had it all. The couple had met years ago at a corporate event, and it didn't take long for them to fall in love. Mia had been everything he wanted, smart, independent, driven, and their love had been a whirlwind that quickly led to marriage. For years, Ryan believed they were happy. Sure, things had gotten a little rocky lately. Mia had been working late more often, and there had been less laughter between them, but Ryan chalked it up to the pressures of their respective jobs. They both had demanding careers, and Mia had been taking on more responsibility at her marketing firm. At least, that's what he told himself. It was a Friday evening, and Ryan was excited to unwind with his best friend, Jake Morris. They had a standing tradition of meeting at Giovanni's, an upscale Italian restaurant, every month to catch up over drinks. For Ryan, these dinners had become a sanctuary, an escape from the growing distance between him and Mia. The conversation flowed easily, as always, as they shared stories about work, mutual friends, and their favorite sports teams. Jake was just about to make a joke when his face went pale. His eyes locked on something, or someone, behind Ryan. Ryan? Jake's voice dropped. Don't freak out, man, but I think you need to see this. Ryan frowned, confused by the sudden tension in Jake's voice. What are you talking about? Jake didn't respond. Instead, he subtly nodded toward the back of the restaurant. Slowly, Ryan turned in his seat, his heart rate picking up as he tried to make sense of Jake's strange behavior. And then he saw her. There, in a secluded booth by the window, was Mia. She was dressed in a sleek, black dress, one Ryan had never seen before, her long hair cascading over her shoulders as she laughed at something the man sitting across from her said. Ryan's mind raced. Maybe it was a business meeting, he thought. Maybe this was one of her clients. But deep down, he knew better. The way she leaned into the man, the way she touched his hand across the table, it wasn't professional. It was intimate. His stomach churned as the reality of the situation sank in. That guy, he's not just some friend, is he? Jake asked cautiously. Ryan felt his throat tighten. No, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Ryan didn't remember much about the rest of the dinner. Jake tried to steer the conversation away from what they had just witnessed, but Ryan's mind was already somewhere else, spinning, reeling from the betrayal he had just seen. The dinner felt like a bad dream. His hands shook as he gripped his phone, staring at Mia's number, debating whether to confront her right then and there. When he finally got home that night, Mia was already in bed. She was pretending to sleep. Ryan could tell. He watched her for a moment, his heart pounding, before deciding he wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. He needed to think, to figure out what this meant for their marriage. But the next morning, Mia's phone buzzed. Ryan, still grappling with what he had seen, couldn't resist. He glanced at the screen and saw a message from someone named Ethan. "Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again. XOXO." Ryan's blood ran cold. Any doubts he had vanished in an instant. This wasn't a business meeting. Mia was having an affair, and she wasn't even bothering to hide it anymore. Ryan waited until Mia returned from the shower before he confronted her. He sat at the kitchen table, holding her phone in his hand. The minute she saw it, she knew the jig was up. "Who's Ethan?" Ryan asked, his voice low but laced with hurt. Mia's face drained of color. She stammered for a moment, trying to come up with an excuse, but Ryan wasn't interested in hearing lies. He slammed the phone on the table, the screen lighting up again with another message from Ethan. "Don't even bother lying," Ryan said, his voice cracking. "I saw you with him last night." Mia's eyes filled with tears as she sank into the chair across from him. "I'm sorry, Ryan," she whispered. "It's not what you think." But it was exactly what Ryan thought. As Mia started to unravel, she confessed to everything. She had been seeing Ethan for months. He was an older man she had met through a business connection, and what started as innocent flirting had quickly spiraled into an affair. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," Mia sobbed. I didn't feel the connection between us anymore. We've been growing apart, and So, this is my fault?" Ryan spat, his hands clenched into fists. "You cheat on me because what? We've been having a rough patch?" Mia's tears fell harder. "I'm not trying to blame you. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I want." Ryan stood up, pacing the kitchen, his mind in turmoil. His wife, the woman he had trusted with his heart, had betrayed him. Everything he thought he knew about their marriage was crumbling around him, and all Mia could do was sit there and cry, unable to offer any real explanation. But Ryan wasn't done. He wanted answers, and he wasn't going to stop until he had them. Days turned into weeks, and Ryan's pain didn't subside. In fact, it only deepened as Mia's betrayal weighed on him. They agreed to separate temporarily, giving each other space to figure out what they wanted. But Ryan's feelings of anger and humiliation consumed him, and he found himself obsessing over one question. How could Mia do this to him? One night, after a few drinks with Jake, Ryan admitted he wanted revenge. "You want to make her regret it?" Jake asked, leaning in. "Then you've got to show her that you don't need her. You've got to make her realize she threw away the best thing in her life." That's when it hit Ryan. The best revenge wasn't getting even. It was rising above. Mia expected him to wallow in his pain, to beg for her forgiveness. But he wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. Instead, Ryan focused on himself. He started working out, shedding the weight he had gained over the years, and threw himself into his career, taking on more projects and responsibilities. He began going out more, meeting new people, and reconnecting with old friends. Mia, still caught up in her relationship with Ethan, didn't notice at first. But slowly, as time passed, she began to see the changes in Ryan. He looked better, more confident. His career was thriving while Ethan's, unknown to Mia, was beginning to unravel. It turned out Ethan wasn't the man Mia thought he was. He had financial troubles that he had been hiding, and Ryan, being the sharp financial analyst he was, discovered the cracks in Ethan's business. Through a mutual connection, Ryan made sure Mia found out. It wasn't long before the cracks in Mia's affair began to show. Ethan wasn't as secure or as wealthy as he had appeared. The thrill that had once drawn Mia in began to fade as she realized the life she had left Ryan for was built on lies. Meanwhile, Ryan's life was on an upward trajectory. He had moved on emotionally, physically, and financially, and Mia, now watching the life she had chosen unravel, felt the weight of her choices. Months later, Mia showed up at Ryan's doorstep. She looked different, older, tired. Gone was the confident woman who had left him for another man. Now, she was the one seeking forgiveness. "I made a mistake," she said, her voice small. "I don't know what I was thinking. Ryan, I miss you. I miss us." Ryan looked at her, and for the first time in months he didn't feel anger or betrayal. He felt nothing. The pain she had caused was still there, but it no longer defined him. He had moved on. "I loved you, Mia," Ryan said softly. "But we're not the same people anymore. You made your choice, and I've made mine." With that, Ryan closed the door. There was no yelling, no dramatic goodbye. Just the quiet realization that sometimes the best revenge is finding peace within yourself and letting go of the past. And that, my friends, is how Ryan turned his heartbreak into strength. Revenge isn't always about getting back at someone. It's about rising above the pain and finding your own path to happiness. What would you have done in Ryan's shoes? Would you have given Mia a second chance? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and of course, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional and powerful stories like this one. Have a similar experience or want to ask a question? Drop it in the comments below. Until next time, stay strong and keep moving forward.
Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
It was an ordinary Thursday evening, but things were about to change. My wife, Kathy, and I were in the kitchen, making dinner together. She was chopping onions while I sliced cheese and ham for our omelets. Then, out of the blue, she said something that stopped me cold. "Ben, we've been married for almost 7 years, and we've always been honest with each other, right?" I set down the knife, caught off guard. "Of course," I replied. "Honesty is the foundation of our relationship." Kathy's expression grew serious. "I met someone," she said quietly. A jolt went through me. "What do you mean?" I asked, even though I was afraid of what she'd say. She looked away for a moment, then continued. "He's a guy from work. A really nice guy. I've been having lunch with him." My stomach twisted. "Is there more to it? Do you like him?" I asked, holding my breath. She glanced down, guilt written across her face, and nodded softly. I felt a wave of nausea. We needed to talk. I set the knife down and steadied myself, pressing both hands onto the table. "How far has it gone with this guy?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Kathy leaned back against the counter, avoiding my gaze. "We've been having lunch every day for a few weeks," she admitted. "And we had dinner last week when you had a late business meeting." I took a deep breath. "Have you held hands, kissed, or done anything more?" She turned pale, then nodded slowly. "We've kissed." A wave of sickness rolled over me. Did it go further than just a kiss? She looked at me, shook her head, and said, "Not yet." I felt my knees go weak and sank into a chair. "So, you're considering it?" I asked quietly. Her lips tightened, and she gave a stiff nod. "I think so," she whispered. "He wants me to go away with him for a weekend." I could barely get the words out. "Are you going?" She closed her eyes for a moment before answering, "Yes. I don't want to hurt you, but I need to understand what he means to me." "I'm sorry, Ben. I promised him I'd go. I couldn't just leave without telling you." My voice was hollow as I asked, "Where are you going?" "Miami," she replied, barely above a whisper. I forced myself to ask, "Sharing a room, I suppose?" She nodded. "He's booked a suite. And when are you leaving?" "Tomorrow morning." I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "So, you waited until the last second to tell me, huh?" She looked at me, her face tense. "I wanted to be sure I was going through with it before I hurt you." "How considerate of you, Kathy," I said, my voice heavy with sarcasm. "Does he even know you're married?" "Yes, of course," she said defensively. "I always wear my wedding rings." "Do me a favor then," I said bitterly. "Don't wear them when you're in his bed in Miami." Her face fell, but I continued. "Does he know you talk about me?" "I talk about you all the time when I'm with him," she said softly. I could feel the resentment building. "I'm sure you've had plenty of nice things to say about me, right? Like how I'm such a nice guy, just like him. Or maybe you've mentioned that I'm not exactly stellar in bed, not the best provider. or that I leave toenail clippings on the carpet. She looked hurt. I've never said anything negative about you, Ben. He knows I love you, she said softly. I shook my head, feeling disbelief mixed with anger. But apparently, not enough to stop you from spending a weekend away with him. You love me, but maybe you're not in love with me. Is that it? She sighed, her voice wavering. I don't know. I'm confused. So, you're seeking clarity in the arms of this really nice man who knows you're married but doesn't care? I shot back. Has this nice guy been tested for STDs recently? She winced. He's not like that, Ben. He hasn't been with anyone in over 2 years. That's what he says, I replied, my skepticism clear. But I bet he's not telling you the whole truth. Guys like him see a beautiful, married woman and want to conquer her. That's the real game. Kathy looked away, guilt on her face. I took a deep breath. Is this nice guy your boss? She shook her head. No. He's my boss's boss. So, you're really moving up, huh? Climbing the corporate ladder with your body instead of your talent and hard work? Kathy's eyes flashed with anger. I'm not sure what I'm doing, Ben, but your crude approach isn't helping you escape with another man for a weekend in Vegas? I scoffed. I took a steadying breath, my voice softer but thick with emotion. Let me ask you something. If I beg you not to go, if I get down on my knees and plead with you to stay here with me, will you do it? She looked down, avoiding my eyes, and shook her head. I can't, Ben. I promised Roger I'd go with him, and I can't break my word. So that was his name. I took a breath, feeling the anger surge again. I see. You can break the vows you made to me 7 years ago, but you can't break a promise to Roger? Her voice softened. I'm sorry, Ben. I don't want to hurt you, but I have to do this for me. Please try to understand. In that moment, I knew I'd lost her, but through the pain and misery, an idea surfaced. A final parting shot that might, if nothing else, make her pause and think about the impact of her choices on us. I stood up, glanced briefly in her direction, then turned toward the basement door. Wait here, I said quietly. I want to show you something. Then I'll get out of your way so you can get ready for your trip. I went down to the basement and found the Halloween prop I was looking for. Then I opened our wall safe, took out a piece of paper, grabbed a hammer and some nails, and brought everything back upstairs to the kitchen. Kathy looked confused as she saw me carrying a small wooden coffin, something we usually use as a Halloween decoration. What's going on? She asked, her tone uncertain. I set the coffin on the kitchen table, clearing the sandwich fixings off to the floor. Just bear with me for a moment, I said. We've been together for so long, and before it all ends, I want to show you something. I tapped the top of the 3-foot wooden coffin. This is a coffin. Well, it's a cheap Halloween prop, but it still represents a coffin. Here's the lid, and here's a hammer and some nails. Kathy's expression grew uneasy. And this, I continued, holding up the paper from the safe, is our marriage license. I opened the lid of the coffin, placed our wedding license inside, and closed it with deliberate care. Ben, what in the world are you doing? Put our marriage license back where you found it. Kathy's voice was rising, an edge of panic breaking through. Why, Kathy? I asked, meeting her gaze steadily. It doesn't hold any significance anymore. It belongs here, in the coffin, ready for its burial. She blinked rapidly, tears welling up. What are you talking about, Ben? I shook my head, the pain cutting deep. It's proof that we're married. A truth that won't mean anything once you leave to be with Roger tomorrow. Now she was visibly shaken. You don't know that, Ben. I don't even know that. Oh, I know, Kathy. You've made your choice to run off with Roger. And mine. I paused, gripping the hammer. Mine is to choose divorce. I took a nail, placed it on the lid, and drove it in with a sharp thud. Kathy flinched at the sound. That's the first nail, I said, symbolizing all the lunches and dinners you had with him. I positioned another nail at a corner and hammered it in. And this one, for the kisses you shared with him. Her mouth quivered as I continued, each nail sealing more than just the coffin. I drove the third nail into another corner. This nail represents your agreement to go away with Roger, the really nice guy, for a weekend in Vegas, I said, lifting the final nail, positioning it at the last corner of the coffin. With one firm hit, I began driving it into the wood. And that's the fourth nail. Kathy's eyes widened as I continued, my voice steady. You know the expression, the final nail in the coffin? It seals things for eternity, solidifying the fate of whatever's inside. Our marriage is in that coffin, Kathy. When you leave for Miami with Roger tomorrow morning, that last nail will seal it, ending our life together, irreconcilably and irrevocably. Her voice cracked as she spoke. You can't mean that, Ben. You can't throw us away over one mistake. I looked at her, feeling both the weight of my words and the sting of her choices. I'm not the one tossing our relationship away, Kathy. You are. I've loved you with every fiber of my being. You're the most beautiful, captivating woman I've ever known. It's been an honor and a joy to call you my wife for these past 7 years. No, I'm not the one ending things here. If I could, I'd climb into that coffin with our marriage certificate and be buried right alongside it, I said, feeling the ache in my chest deepen, just to satisfy my curiosity and maybe twist the knife a bit deeper. If I checked the luggage you're packing, would I find some lingerie? Maybe a negligee you bought just for this trip? Kathy didn't answer, but her tearful expression said it all. I nodded, feeling both devastated and numb. That's what I thought. I took a step back. I'm leaving now. I don't want to witness your final act of betrayal. I'll come back to get what I need for the next couple of weeks after you've left with Roger. While you're in Vegas, though I suspect you'll be too busy with Roger to think of anything else, you might want to consider what items in the house you'd like to keep. I won't be here when you return, but my lawyer will be in touch in the next week or two. I grabbed my jacket, walked out the door, got into my car, and drove away. It was the worst evening of my life. I felt hollow, numb, and utterly lost. I didn't have a destination in mind. I just needed to escape. Eventually, I found a cheap motel, far enough from the airport to avoid any risk of seeing Roger. It didn't matter where I stayed. In the end, he had won. Or maybe I had just lost. My phone buzzed a few times, Kathy's name lighting up on the screen, but I ignored it. I couldn't bear to hear her excuses or listen to her try to explain away what she had done to our marriage. That night, I slept poorly, haunted by visions of them together, their intimacy replacing what I thought we'd shared. The next morning, I dragged myself out of bed, threw on the same clothes, and found a nearby diner. I ordered coffee and toast, but I could barely manage a few sips. Despite my efforts to shut out thoughts of Kathy, my mind drifted back to her. I could imagine her holding hands with Roger on the plane, sharing quiet smiles in the taxi, eager to reach their room. I had heard about the pain of betrayal, but until now, I never understood just how deeply it could break someone. At 9, I finally called my office to let my assistant know I wouldn't be coming in. She asked if I was feeling unwell, and I simply replied yes, hoping to be back to my usual self by Monday. After hanging up, I noticed a barrage of missed calls from Kathy and a dozen text messages. I didn't delete them, nor did I read any of them. The last message and call were from 7:45, so I assumed she had given up trying to reach me before leaving to be with Roger, the man who had taken my wife. I refused to call him a nice guy anymore. He was anything but that. Revenge on him felt inevitable. I just needed the right moment. To be cautious, I waited until 10:30 to head home and collect what I needed for my new life as a single man. As I pulled into the driveway and opened the garage door, the sight of Kathy's car missing hit me like a ton of bricks. She had likely taken it to meet Roger, avoiding the need for a taxi. I scolded myself for even considering that she might have changed her mind and stayed home. Get real, buddy, I muttered. She dumped you. She found a better deal. Some guy who could whisk her away to Miami and pamper her in luxury hotels. Wake up and move on, I told myself. You might not find someone as stunning as her, but you'll find someone. Despite my own words, I struggled to believe them deep down. As I stepped inside the house, an unsettling silence enveloped me, making everything feel foreign through the fog of a broken heart. It had once radiated warmth and vitality, but now it felt cold and hollow. Moving through the kitchen, I noticed that the remnants of cheese and ham I had scattered on the floor were gone, and the coffin was no longer on the table. It had probably been thrown in the trash, a testament that my desperate attempt to reach Kathy had fallen flat. Lust, I reminded myself, can cloud judgment in profound ways. I climbed the stairs to the master bedroom and pushed the door open. There, atop the bed, sat the coffin, its lid partially lifted and a crowbar resting nearby. Someone, presumably Kathy, had gone to great lengths to pry some of those nails loose. Out of curiosity, I checked and found the marriage license I had hidden inside, now placed between the two pillows at the head of the bed. Looks like she didn't even want to grant me that victory, I muttered to myself, turning toward the dresser to grab my underwear and socks. I noticed a pile on the table by the window. 3 sets of beautifully crafted, undoubtedly expensive women's underwear, all torn to shreds, along with a yellow negligee, reduced to ribbons. Atop the pile was a piece of paper with a message written in bold black benair. I cannot share what I do not own. What on earth? I exclaimed aloud. Glancing back at the bed, I spotted a similar note propped against the coffin, the same message scrawled in the same black ink. Just then, the screech of tires and the crash of two cars echoed from outside, followed by the front door bursting open. "Where are you? Oh God, please be here. Please, Ben. You have to be here so I can tell you how wrong I was. How horribly, stupidly wrong I was." A woman's voice screamed through the house. I heard hurried footsteps racing up the stairs, then the sound of stumbling and falling halfway up. She was sobbing uncontrollably, and when she spotted me standing at the top of the landing, she reached out her arms and began to crawl toward me. In all our 7 years of marriage and 2 years of dating before that, I had never seen her like this. She wore no makeup. Her hair was a wild mess, her eyes swollen and red. Dressed in a Seattle Tacoma sweatshirt, gray sweatpants, and those fuzzy but funny slippers I had jokingly gifted her one Christmas, she looked utterly lost. "Kathy, what's going on? Where's Roger?" I asked, concern flooding my voice. She shook her head violently, her words tumbling out in a rush. "I can't give away what's not mine, Ben. That's what I told him." "Who?" I asked, my heart pounding. "Roger. That's what I told him when he came to pick me up. I can't give away what's not mine." Kathy's voice trembled as she continued her slow crawl up the stairs toward me. "I was dressed just like this." He asked why I wasn't ready to go to Miami with him, and I repeated that I couldn't give away what's not mine. He said, "What the hell does that mean?" And I told him I couldn't go anywhere with him, would never go with him, would never speak to him again because I don't belong to him. My body belongs only to my husband, and I will never share it with anyone else. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she continued. "He called me names, Ben. He said I was a liar and a tease, that I'd wasted his money on airfare and a suite at the Aria. He threatened to ruin my reputation at work, calling me a fraud, and said he'd get me fired. I told him he couldn't get me fired because I quit." She finally reached the top of the stairs and collapsed at my feet, her body racked with sobs. I knelt down beside her, my heart aching for the woman I thought I'd lost. "Kathy, are you saying you really mean it? That you want to be with me?" He was furious. His tires screeched for a block as he sped away. Finally reaching the landing, Kathy wrapped her arms around my ankles, clinging to my legs. "I'm so ashamed," she cried. "I hurt the only person who's always shown me love, who would do anything for me. I betrayed the trust of the man who means everything to me. I'm so sorry." Her sobs were heart-wrenching, and I stood there, stunned, as she held on to me for what felt like an eternity, though it was probably only a few minutes. I couldn't move. The woman I adored, the center of my universe, the one I had worshipped with every fiber of my being, had shattered my heart. And now, half a day later, she was still clinging to my legs, sobbing. Every fiber of my being urged me to gather her in my arms, to express how deeply I cherished her, and to assure her that we could navigate through this difficult time together. But I remained frozen, unable to move. The events of the past 15 hours flooded my mind. While part of me believed she hadn't actually gone through with anything physical with Roger, the sense of betrayal lingered. A married woman doesn't engage in intimate lunches and dinners, share passionate kisses, or plan a getaway in Miami with another man. Though she had come to her senses before any irrevocable harm was done, the betrayal cut deep. I stood there, gazing at the woman who had, until last night, been my entire world. It was clear she was in as much pain as I was. Our marriage hung precariously on the edge of a dark abyss, and I wondered if we had the strength to prevent ourselves from toppling over. Finally, I reached down and lifted Kathy to her feet, embracing her until her sobs subsided. "Let's go brew some fresh coffee," I suggested. "Thank you, Ben." "Oh, Ben," she whispered, her voice trembling with gratitude and regret. "I think I might have damaged your car when I pulled into the driveway just now." "Yeah, I heard it. We'll discuss that too," I assured her. I helped her back downstairs and into the kitchen. As we sipped our coffee, I asked, "What made you change your mind? Last night, you seemed so sure about going with Roger. What happened?" She looked at me over her cup, her eyes still red and swollen. "You buried our marriage." "What do you mean?" I asked, puzzled. "You put our marriage license in that coffin and sealed it shut. After you left, I went upstairs to pack, but I kept thinking about our marriage license trapped in that dark place. It felt like our marriage was over, like you were burying it. It was in a place with no air, no light, and it couldn't escape. Then I started to think about all the wonderful things our marriage had given us, all it meant to me. We were so happy together, and I remembered how happy you always made me." She paused, her voice trembling slightly. I guess I dozed off, she continued, because I dreamed I was in that coffin, in that dark place, and I felt like I was suffocating. It felt so real that it woke me up, and I knew I had to open that coffin and get our marriage out. Let it breathe again. Let me breathe again. She chuckled softly. I never realized how well you hid your tools. It took me at least an hour to find a crowbar, and another half-hour to haul that coffin up to the bedroom and pry the lid open enough to get our license out. I felt possessed, like I had to retrieve it before you could seal the coffin shut. When did you decide not to go with Roger? I asked. She giggled again, a sound that warmed my soul. About 2 seconds after you left. I knew I could never go away with Roger, or anyone else. I felt so foolish and ashamed. How could I treat the only man I've ever loved the way I treated you? I tried calling you over and over, but you wouldn't answer. Then I started texting, but that didn't work either. Much later, after I finally pried the coffin lid open enough to reach inside, I thought about how I would tell Roger I never wanted to see him again. I wiped off all my makeup and put on your old sweatshirt and sweatpants. My eyes were already red and swollen from crying, and I wondered how Roger would see me, the real me that you always see and still love. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever known, Kathy. Even now, you look perfect to me, I said. And when I realized that, I knew I had to do everything in my power to win you back, to make you love me again. I hadn't packed much yet, but as I started to unpack, I saw the lingerie I bought for the trip with Roger, and I broke down again. Just the sight of it made me sick. They were the final expression of my betrayal, and I had to destroy them. I grabbed my scissors and ripped them all to shreds. They cost a lot of money, but I couldn't bear to look at them. I destroyed them just like I thought I had destroyed you and our marriage. That's when I went to where I kept our marriage license and picked it up to look at it. It's really simple. It says that Kathy Russell and Ben Hardy got married on June 12, 2005. My maid of honor and your best man witnessed it. As I read it, memories flooded back. We stood in front of all our family and friends, promising to be faithful to each other until death. I cried again, realizing I couldn't be with anyone else but you. I told Roger I couldn't share what I didn't own when he came to pick me up. Thank you for sharing. You've given me a lot to think about. Do you think we'll get through this and be okay? Kathy asked. I'm not sure, Kathy. I hope so, but right now I'm uncertain. You nearly broke me last night. I've never felt such pain before. I felt betrayed, alone, and helpless. Can you imagine knowing the person you love most, the one you've always trusted completely, is choosing someone else over you? Tears welled up in her eyes again. Oh, Ben, I'm so sorry. I was out of my mind. I'd do anything to make it right, even die if that would help. Dying definitely wouldn't help. I want you alive, healthy, and, more than anything, I want to trust you again. Luckily, it won't be as hard as it could be because, like you said, we've always been honest with each other. Even last night when you expressed what you thought you felt. What now, Kathy? I'm not sure about you, but I didn't sleep well last night. If it's okay with you, I'd like to have you with me in bed. It might be too soon for that. We don't have to do anything, Ben. I just want to feel you next to me where only you belong, she said, her dark eyes pleading earnestly. I couldn't resist her plea. Okay, but no funny business, Kathy. I'm still upset with you, I replied firmly. A small smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. Anything you say, darling, she said, crossing her heart. She took my arm and led me upstairs to our room. Absolutely no funny business. For a couple of months, things remained uncertain. No matter how hard I tried, there were times when that night would haunt me, leaving me in a bad mood. Kathy seemed to notice those difficult moments and would shower me with love until she became the only thing on my mind. Eventually, she decided to quit her job. When her HR boss asked her why, she opened up about Roger. Though embarrassed, she felt the need to share her experience. Not surprisingly, HR informed her that Roger, the seemingly nice guy, had 3 harassment complaints against him. As a result, he lost his job and any professional references. Kathy was allowed to keep her position and even received a substantial sum of money in exchange for not suing the company. She stayed at her job for about 6 months, and during that time, we discovered we were going to be parents. Life moves forward. Sometimes, you have to give someone a second chance to make things right, even if many would disagree with that decision. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
I'm really sorry, Mr. Walker. I hate delivering bad news, John Michael said. handing me an envelope with a report on my wife's dealings with her ex-boss, Grant Jacobs, along with photos and a DVD. Though I glanced at the photos, I hadn't yet watched the DVD. Part of me resisted, but I knew I had to confront it. "Do you know how long this has been happening?" I asked. John checked his notes before answering. "Based on what we've found, it's been ongoing for at least 10, maybe 12 years. It started around when your wife was up for a promotion," John said, aligning with the birth of our daughter Sophie. I decided to get DNA tests. Another worry struck me: STDs. The report showed Grant had affairs with other married women, although we'd been carnal since her retirement. What risks had I faced unknowingly? I needed testing. Scanning the report again, I grimaced at Aaron's note that Linda seemed unaware of Grant's affairs. "If it helps, Grant claimed he never meant to break up your marriage. He just wanted physical engaging," John said, "and they never did anything at your home." I'd let John install cameras, hoping our marital space hadn't been violated. "No, that's not comforting, Mr. Michaels," I said. Grant Jacobs was no favorite of mine. Now I understood why. "There's more, Mr. Walker," John continued. "Jacob's sister Natalie knew about the affair and might have helped." This saddened me. I'd always thought Natalie was decent. "Damn," I muttered. "Have you talked to a lawyer?" John asked. "Not yet. I wanted to know the truth first," I admitted. "Well, Lisa Hawkins is my go-to for these situations. She's top-notch and hates cheaters. I can send this over to her and let her know you'll be contacting her," John offered. "That would be helpful. Thanks. I'll call her office for an appointment," I said, taking his business card. "Can I offer a suggestion?" John asked. "Of course," I replied. "Let Lisa handle this. I know it's tough, but don't risk getting into trouble over it. This is real life, not some online drama. You have kids to think about," he advised. "I get it. Thank you." After paying, I left his office, feeling like my whole marriage was a sham. It hurt, but John was right. I sat in my car and cried for 15 minutes. After pulling myself together, I scheduled an appointment with Lisa Hawkins for the next day. She needed financial documents. On the way home, I bought cigarettes, a habit I hadn't indulged in since college. Then I went to a bar for a beer, trying to cope. "You okay?" the bartender asked as I smoked. "Is it that obvious?" I asked. "Unfortunately, yeah," he said with a smile. "Let me guess, you found out your wife's been cheating?" "Yeah, for 12 years, I confessed. "I've seen worse," he nodded. "My grandpa used to say, I felt sorry for myself because I had no shoes. Then I met a fella who had no feet. It gets better. Take care of business. Drinking won't help," he advised. "He sounds wise," I said. "He was," the bartender agreed. "Finish your beer, then head home. You won't find answers at the bottom of that glass." I nodded, knowing he was right. Sipping my beer, I pondered the unimaginable. Linda cheating on me. Over time, subtle signs emerged that individually seemed innocuous, but collectively painted a troubling picture. For example, after our second child, Sophie, was born, I underwent a vasectomy, yet Linda resumed birth control. When questioned, she explained it as caution and cycle regulation, which I accepted despite my lack of expertise. Then, as she started traveling with Grant for her new job, her wardrobe choices seemed unsuitable for business, with her suggesting that entertaining was a significant aspect of her role, which now I understood included entertaining Grant. I used to call her in the evenings when she was away. I noticed she was always in her room, and sometimes I thought I heard a man's voice nearby. Occasionally, Linda's voice cracked as she spoke. I couldn't explain it then, but I reasoned Grant might be with her. There were times I caught a faint whiff of Grant's aftershave on Linda's clothes, making me nauseous. It seemed she had been in close contact with him. Then there were the Friday afternoons she claimed to work after her retirement. She explained it as needing her skills for one afternoon a week, strictly business. Now I realize her special skills involved more than business. Her one afternoon a week turned into 2 or 3, and her occasional trips increased, often lasting the entire weekend. This unfolded over the last 4 months. Surprisingly, Linda's attitude toward me stayed the same, remaining affectionate and caring since our wedding. She appeared happy at home with the kids, even though I took on more caregiving duties due to her busy schedule. Feeling burdened, I hired John's firm to investigate, confirming my suspicions. Now the only question is how to split everything. If it were a drunken mistake, maybe I could forgive, but this betrayal over a decade was deliberate. Time for consequences. I finished my drink, nodded to the bartender, and left. Coming home, I saw her car in the garage, which was unexpected. After closing the garage, I found Linda in the house, noticing the smell of cigarettes and beer on me. "You've been smoking," she noted, her concern evident. "And I smell beer. Is everything okay?" "No, today's been terrible," I admitted. "What happened?" she asked, genuinely worried, though I couldn't help but question if it was genuine. "Something," I replied. "I'll be in my office for the night. I won't be much company." "Can I help?" she offered. "Yeah," I thought, "undo what you've done." "I'm afraid not," I said. "By the way, I'll be away this weekend, starting Friday," she mentioned. It was only Tuesday, and she's planning another trip already. Again. "What? Another one? Didn't you just go on a getaway?" I questioned. "Yes, but something came up," she explained. "Business, you know." "Sure," I replied sarcastically. "What about Sophie's birthday party?" "I am aware," she acknowledged, "but I can't avoid it. Could you explain to her why I won't be there, please?" "No," I refused. "You missed Erin's birthday and our anniversary last year. You can explain to our daughter why you'd rather be with Grant than celebrate her birthday here." "John, please. You're being unreasonable," she said. "No, Linda," I stated firmly. "You supposedly retired months ago after your company was sold. But you've been gone so much I can't help but wonder what's really going on. Is there something you'd like to tell me?" "What are you saying? Are you accusing me of having an affair?" she asked defensively. "What would you think if the situation were reversed?" I questioned. She backed off a bit after that. "I see your point," she conceded. "But believe me, it's just business." "So you've said," I replied. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to do. Please don't interrupt me. You'll have to look after the kids tonight." I retreated into my home office, closing and locking the door. I heard Linda attempt to open it. "John?" she called out. "Please, John, talk to me." "Leave me alone, Linda," I said through gritted teeth. "I'm busy." I heard her shuffle away as I gathered the information Lisa said she would need. Then I turned to the evidence John provided. Reading the report, it was difficult to comprehend that this was the woman I had loved and supported for the last 12 years. I donned my headphones and started the DVD. Unless you've been in my shoes, you can't comprehend the range of emotions that flood you when witnessing the woman you adore giving herself to another man willingly. I didn't care how John obtained these videos. All I knew was that any love I once held for Linda had vanished. As I watched her with Grant, I vowed never to touch her again. I forced myself to listen to their carnal conversations. "Hey, are we still on for this weekend?" Grant asked, holding her close. "Definitely," Linda grinned. "Can't go too long without you." "What about Sophie's party?" he asked. "John will handle it," she assured. "He's better with the kids." "I worry he'll catch on," Grant said. "You're supposed to be retired. I've told you I'm not giving us up," she affirmed. "Family's important, but so are we." "I hope you're right," Grant said. "What if he finds out?" "I'll deal with it," she said confidently. "It won't be easy," he warned. "I'll manage," she said. "He hasn't caught on in 12 years. "How long will this last?" Grant asked. "As long as possible," she declared, shutting off the video. "You just might get your wish." She tucked the DVD away and approached the office door. "What?" I said. "The kids are going to bed. Can you at least say goodnight?" she asked. "Yeah, hold on," I said, shutting down my computer and going upstairs. Despite my turmoil, I smiled as I tucked them in. Sophie seemed worried. "Are you okay, Daddy?" she asked. "Yeah, I'm fine. Go to sleep, sweetheart." "I love you," I said. "I love you too," she said, kissing my cheek. After leaving her room, I went downstairs for coffee. "I kept dinner warm," Linda said. "I'm not hungry," I said, going to the patio. Lighting a cigarette, Linda joined me, trying to kiss me. I turned my head, letting her kiss my cheek. "What's wrong?" she asked, concerned. "You haven't smoked since college." "We don't always get what we want," I said. "What do you mean?" she asked. I shook my head. "It's too late," I said. "Too late for what?" she pressed. "You're savvy," I said. "Figure it out, please. Leave me alone." "Maybe I can help," she offered. "Sorry for being abrupt," I said, softening. "Work's getting to me, maybe in a couple of days." I didn't like lying, but why not to a liar? "Okay," she said softly, tears forming. She went inside. I smoked 2 more cigarettes before joining her. After a shower to rid myself of the smoke, I wore pajamas rarely used and got into bed. Linda reached out, but I pushed her away, a first in our marriage. "John," she started. I turned away, refusing her kiss. "Good night, Linda," I muttered. She cried softly, but I didn't care. The next day, I readied for work and spent time with the kids before leaving without acknowledging Linda. She looked at me strangely. "Don't I get a kiss anymore?" she asked. "Sorry," I said, blowing her a kiss. "I love you," she said. "Yeah, me too," I replied, leaving. At the office, work was tough. I confided in my boss, who advised taking time off if needed. Later, I met Lisa. "Good afternoon, Mr. Walker," she greeted. We discussed my situation. "I want as much as I can get," I said, "especially custody." "Mothers usually get custody," she cautioned. "I've been their caregiver for a decade," I countered, and she admitted I'm a better parent. "That's helpful. We can use that," Lisa said, reviewing the financial data. "Your wife received a significant sum from the company sale. The dividends she gets rival your salary, which works in our favor." "So, does that mean no alimony?" I asked. "Or very little," Lisa confirmed. "She's still young, so she can work. If we secure custody for you, we might get child support from her." "What about the house?" I questioned. "If you get custody, you can stay in the house and she might pay half the mortgage. But if she gets custody, you might pay half the mortgage plus child support," she explained. "Or we could sell the house and split the proceeds." "And our retirement and bank accounts?" I pressed. "We'll leave retirement accounts alone. You keep your 401ks. The rest will be divided evenly," she assured. "What about Grant Jacobs? Can I sue him?" I asked. "Not in this state, but we'll mention him in the proceedings." "You could sue for emotional distress, but it might not go far," she said. "And his sister Natalie? She knew about it," I added. "We can file if you want," Lisa confirmed. "When can we file all of this?" I asked. "We can have it done by Friday," she said. "Any rush?" "I want her served late Saturday afternoon. She'll be away for the weekend with Grant," I revealed. "Ah, shock and awe. We can arrange that, but there's an extra cost for a Saturday process server," she noted. "That's fine. Go ahead," I instructed. "All right, John," she said, concluding with a handshake. She reminded me not to act rashly before taking my retainer check. Leaving her office, I felt in control again. At home, I found Linda's car in the garage, surprising as she was at the office on a Wednesday. Her warm car engine and the aroma of pot roast greeted me inside. "Hi there," Linda greeted from the kitchen. "You're home early. Everything all right?" "Yeah," I replied. "I hope today's better than yesterday," she said. "A bit. I'm managing," I said. "That's good. Dinner?" she asked. I made pot roast. "I'll have some," I agreed. "It smells great. Did you go to the office?" "Yeah, for a couple of hours," she said, "preparing for the weekend." "Did you talk to Sophie?" I asked. "Yes, she's not thrilled, but she'll come around," Linda assured. "Where are the kids?" I questioned. "In their rooms doing homework," she replied. "You're still going on this trip with Grant?" I probed. "Yes, purely business," she insisted. "Just business." "When do you plan to retire?" I asked. "I'm retired. They just need my expertise," she said. "Can't say how long they'll need me." "Seems like you might as well go back full time. You're practically doing it now," I remarked. "What do you mean?" she asked, puzzled. "With all the hours you're putting in, it's almost like you're on their payroll," I noted. "Why do you say that?" she inquired. "I'm actually making more now with my retirement." After changing into more relaxed attire, I complimented her cooking skills on the pot roast. She had always been exceptional, and I'd miss that. Spending time with the kids, I retreated into my office and locked the door. Linda knocked, realizing it was locked. "Planning to stay in here tonight?" she asked. "I think so. I still have a lot to do, and I'm feeling under the weather," I replied. "I'll crash on the futon to avoid getting you sick before your trip." "All right. Take care, John. I love you," she said. "Yeah, me too," I murmured, closing the door. Turning to my computer, I found what I needed, completed a form, and set a reminder to call the next day for confirmation. Thursday unfolded much like Wednesday, with Linda attempting to seduce me into bed wearing a sheer nightgown. However, knowing about her affair stripped away any allure her body held for me. "I'm sorry, Linda, but I feel a terrible migraine coming on," I murmured softly. "I'll rest here in the office tonight." A tear traced down her cheek as she turned away, but I remained indifferent. She called me at noon the next day to inform me of her departure. "I hope you're feeling better, John," she said. "Maybe we can reconnect when I return on Monday." "Thanks for letting me know," I replied. "I love you, John," she insisted. "Sure," I responded. "Have a safe trip. Goodbye, Linda." Ending the call, I dialed Lisa's number. "I'm filing the paperwork now, John," she informed me. "They'll be served at 5:30 tomorrow at Grant's house, just as you requested. Natalie will be served on Monday." "Thank you, Lisa," I said, concluding the call. I locked up my office and returned home, preparing for the movers' arrival. I handed them a bag containing Linda's wedding dress alterations and a note, my wedding ring, and our torn marriage certificate, requesting it be delivered to Linda at Grant's house the next day at 5:30 p.m., along with two $50 bills as tips. "I'll handle this personally, Mr. Walker," the young man assured, taking the bag. "Thank you," I said. Reheating pot roast leftovers, I dined in the living room while watching TV. That night, I slept soundly in the master bed. At noon the next day, Linda's parents arrived with the children. I had been up preparing for Sophie's birthday party in the backyard, which started around 3 p.m. Linda had ordered a cake, which I picked up earlier that morning and stored in the fridge. "You've been busy," remarked Rhonda, Linda's mother, as she entered. "I didn't have much choice," I replied. "I just hope everything goes smoothly." "The kids will enjoy themselves," she reassured. "Did Sophie tell you Linda won't be here?" I asked. "Yes, she did," Rhonda confirmed. "I can't believe Linda would miss her daughter's birthday." She gave me a curious look. "Is everything all right between you two?" I ushered the kids upstairs to prepare for the party before addressing Rhonda and her husband George. "No, it's not," I admitted. "I hate to break it to you, but I'm divorcing Linda." "What?" exclaimed George. "Why?" "She's been having an affair with her boss for 12 years, I revealed. "That's where she is now." "Oh my God," gasped Rhonda. "Are you sure?" "I am. I hired an investigator," I explained, offering to show them the report, which Rhonda declined. "I'd like to see that report," George interjected. "While you're doing that, I'll finish preparing for Sophie's party," Rhonda decided. I thanked Rhonda and led George to my home office, handing him the report. He shook his head in disbelief after reading about Linda's involvement with Grant. "That idiot," he muttered, handing back the report. "Sorry, John. It's hard to accept." "I understand," I sympathized. "What about Grant?" George asked. "I've sued him and his sister for emotional distress," I explained. He scoffed. "Just a lawsuit?" He scoffed. "After what he did?" "I get it, George," I acknowledged. "But I can't risk jail time with 2 kids. "True," he conceded. "But Grant needs to be dealt with." "I can't let you get in trouble," I insisted. "Don't worry, I won't land in jail," he assured. George was tough, and his plan was his own. "What's the plan?" I asked. "Better you don't know," he said with a grin. "Okay," I agreed. He clapped my shoulder. "Let's enjoy time with the kids," he suggested. Outside, Rhonda had set up for the party. Sophie was amazed by the decorations. "Thank you, Daddy," she said, embracing me. "This is so wonderful. I wish Mom were here to see this." "I do too," I replied. "We can take pictures for her to see later, okay?" "Okay," she agreed. I fired up the grill and started cooking hamburgers and hot dogs for everyone. Around 4:30 p.m., the doorbell rang, signaling the beginning. Over the next half hour, more than a dozen parents arrived with their children. All of them were Sophie's school friends, and they were all enjoying themselves in the backyard. Among the last to arrive were Natalie and her husband Ralph, with their daughter, Denise. I welcomed them inside and directed Denise to join the party in the backyard. I offered Natalie and Ralph something to drink, and they graciously accepted. "I'm surprised to see you here, Natalie. I thought you and Ralph had an important business trip this weekend," I remarked. "That's Grant and Linda's responsibility," she clarified. "I'm just there to support them in the office." "I see," I responded. "John, is everything okay?" Natalie inquired. "Between you and Linda, I mean." "Why do you ask?" I countered. "You're not wearing your wedding ring," she pointed out. I glanced at my finger and noticed the indentation where my ring used to be. "I returned it to her," I explained. "Maybe Grant will have better luck keeping her faithful than I did." "What do you mean by that?" Natalie pressed. "Let's not play games, Natalie," I retorted. "I know your brother's been involved with Linda for the past 12 years. I'll admit, you both did a good job of deceiving me all this time." "John, please, Linda still loves you," Natalie pleaded. "Yes, so much that she lied and betrayed me for over a decade. I can't even begin to describe how loved I feel right now," I said sarcastically. "So what's your plan?" Natalie asked. "What do you think? I'm divorcing her. She and Grant will be served soon," I stated, checking my watch. "Served?" Natalie questioned. "Yes, Linda will receive divorce papers and I'm suing Grant. You'll be served on Monday," I informed her. "Me? Why are you suing me? I haven't done anything," Natalie protested. "Exactly," I said. "For over a decade you knew about their affair. My investigator even suggested you might have facilitated it." And all the while you pretended to be my friend. You could have said or done something, but you didn't. How many times have you sat in my house, enjoyed my hospitality, knowing what Linda was doing with your brother? Did you find it amusing to make me a fool? Now my marriage and my family are shattered, and you're partly responsible for that. Thanks to the three of you, I'll never be able to love or trust another woman again. And my children have lost their mother. I hope you're satisfied. John, I'm truly sorry, she said. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough, Natalie, I asserted. For 12 years, the three of you conspired to ruin my family. You didn't care about the impact on me or my children, and now you've succeeded. It wasn't like that, Natalie insisted. Really? Was it all just business between the three of you? I scoffed. At first, yes, she admitted. It was Grant's idea initially. Linda went along with it because she wanted the job, but she wasn't happy about it. Over time, things changed. And what about after you sold your company and supposedly retired? I questioned. That was Linda's decision, Natalie clarified. I thought it would end, but Linda chose to continue the affair. Then she made a terrible choice, I remarked. But you still played a part. I'm truly sorry, John, she said. None of us wanted to hurt you. But you did, I concluded, in the worst possible way. It's best if you gather your family and leave my house, Natalie. She nodded silently. I understand, John, she whispered, before departing to fetch Denise and Ralph. And Natalie, I called after her. She turned to face me. Don't ever come back. She wiped away a tear and left with Denise and Ralph. Linda and Grant were lying undressed in his bed when her phone buzzed, signaling a new message. Assuming it was John sending pictures from Sophie's party, she reached for her phone on the nightstand and read the text from Natalie. He knows everything. Oh no, she exclaimed. What's wrong? Grant inquired. That was Natalie. She said John knows everything, Linda disclosed. I should get cleaned up and go home. Are you sure that's wise? Grant questioned. Yes, Linda affirmed. She hastily put on a bathrobe and got out of bed. Just then, they heard the doorbell. Who could that be? Grant wondered aloud. He hastily dressed and went downstairs, with Linda following close behind. Opening the door, he found a man standing there. How can I help you? Grant asked. Are you Grant Jacobs? The man queried. Yes, Grant replied. And is Linda Walker also present? The man continued. That's me, Linda interjected, stepping forward. I'll need to see some identification, the man requested. Why? Grant queried as he retrieved his wallet. The man silently examined Grant's license before handing him an envelope. You've been served, the man declared. Miss Walker, I'll need to see your identification as well. Sure, Linda complied, retrieving her wallet. After inspecting her license, the man handed her an envelope. You've been served, he stated. Additionally, there's a restraining order included with these documents. You are both prohibited from approaching Mr. John Walker, his residence, his workplace, and his children, including their school, within a 500-foot radius. Failure to comply could result in arrest. Good day. With that, the man left, leaving Linda and Grant stunned. Excuse me, is Linda Walker here? Another man, dressed casually, inquired. Yes, that's me, Linda confirmed. The man handed her a paper bag with an envelope attached, and she accepted it, puzzled. I was instructed to deliver this to you personally, ma'am. I also have several other boxes, the man explained. Where should I put them? Grant and Linda exchanged glances before Grant responded. Just leave them in the front room for now, he instructed. Thank you, sir, the man acknowledged before heading back to the truck. As they watched, several boxes were brought in and stacked in the front room as directed by Grant. While this was happening, Linda opened the envelope. Inside was a man's wedding ring, a note, and her marriage license, torn into 4 pieces. Tears streamed down her face as she read the note. Linda, the typewritten note began, throughout our marriage, I have only loved and supported you. Imagine my shock upon discovering your affair with Grant Jacobs over the past 12 years. This is how you repay my love, with deceit and infidelity. All this time you claimed it was just business, but I now know it was much more than that. I hope it was worth it. I urge you to seek legal counsel promptly. Our finances have been divided per the divorce papers, and I have changed the locks on our doors. As I have been the primary caregiver for our children since your involvement with Grant began, I am seeking full custody. However, I am open to visitation arrangements. Please have your attorney contact mine to coordinate. Furthermore, as Grant has offered you shelter, I have sent your belongings to his residence. If there are any items you wish to retrieve from our home, please have your attorney contact mine to arrange it. I have no desire for further contact with you. Please refrain from reaching out to our children or me, or I will enforce the restraining order. I implore you not to contest the divorce terms. I do not wish to escalate matters for the sake of our children, but I will if necessary. I possess photographic evidence, videos, and a comprehensive investigator's report documenting your recent activities. I have not yet disclosed the reason for our divorce to the children, but I will when the time is appropriate. Your parents are aware of the situation, though they have not seen the evidence. Please do what is right for once and bring an end to this charade of a marriage. As of now, Linda, you are dead to me. Goodbye. Signed, John. Overcome with emotion, Linda opened the paper bag and found the ashes of her wedding gown. The very gown she wore when she married John. She collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Grant wrapped his arms around her and read the letter. "He's such an idiot," he muttered. "I'll give him a piece of my mind." "No, Grant, please don't. I don't want you to end up in jail. This is my mess to clean up," she replied. "What did you find out?" "He's suing me for causing him emotional distress," Grant revealed. "He's demanding $5 million. I'll contact my lawyer and see what options we have." "I wonder if he's going after Natalie too," Linda pondered. "Let's check," Grant suggested, reaching for his phone. "If he is, we should meet to discuss this and try to minimize the damage." After the birthday party wrapped up, I expressed gratitude to everyone for attending and for the thoughtful gifts. As I surveyed the cluttered house, I knew I had my work cut out for me. Sophie approached me with tears in her eyes. "What's wrong, honey?" I asked, embracing her. "I wish Mom could have been here," she sniffled. "I missed her." "Yeah, me too," I acknowledged. "Unfortunately, your mother had other plans." Sophie looked at me with a mix of sadness and curiosity. "Are you divorcing her?" she inquired tearfully. I didn't want to spoil her day, but I knew I couldn't evade the conversation forever. "We'll discuss that later, okay?" "It's because of that Grant guy, right?" Aaron chimed in. "What makes you say that?" I questioned. "I've overheard Mom talking to him on the phone a few times," he explained. It was intriguing, but I decided not to probe further, at least for now. "We'll talk more tomorrow," I asserted. "Today is Sophie's birthday. Right now, I need your help cleaning up, all right?" "Okay, Dad," Aaron complied. I hugged Sophie once more and kissed her on the cheek. "Everything will be okay," I assured her, wiping away her tears. "I love you." "I love you too, Daddy," she reciprocated. Rhonda and George stayed behind to assist with the cleanup. "Are you going to be all right, John?" Rhonda inquired before they departed. "I'll manage," I replied. "Thanks for pitching in." "Of course," she responded. "If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to ask." "I appreciate it," I expressed. Rhonda embraced me, and George shook my hand. "Take care, son." He bid me farewell. After they drove off, exhausted, I retreated upstairs and fell asleep almost instantly. The following day, I rose early and completed my usual Sunday tasks after preparing breakfast for us. While I mowed the lawn, Aaron handled the edging. Once we finished, we tidied up and put away the equipment. After lunch, I was surprised to find Sophie making sandwiches for us. We dined together at the table before clearing our plates. Sophie regarded me seriously as we finished. "All right, Dad," she began. "You need to tell us what's going on." I dreaded this conversation, but it was inevitable. I gathered the kids in the living room and we all took a seat. "There's no easy way to say this, so I'll just be straightforward," I began. "I'm divorcing your mother." The news was met with silence from the kids, no outbursts as I had anticipated. They seemed to take it in stride. "She's been cheating on you with that Grant guy, hasn't she?" Aaron ventured. "Yeah," I admitted quietly, nodding. "I figured as much," Aaron remarked. "I bet it's been happening for a while, huh?" "What makes you think that?" I asked. "Just the way she talks to him," he explained. "I've heard her on the phone. She talks to him the same way she talks to you, Dad." It was a revelation. Why hadn't I noticed that myself? The answer was clear. Until recently, I trusted her implicitly and respected her privacy. I saw no reason to eavesdrop on her conversations with Grant or anyone else. "So, how long has it been going on, Dad?" Sophie inquired. "As far as I can figure, it's been about 12 years, sweetheart," I replied. She reacted with a gasp. "So that means she started not long after I was born," she remarked. "Pretty much," I confirmed. "Damn her," Sophie muttered. "Sorry, Dad," she quickly added, sensing my reaction. Understanding her frustration, I let it slide this time. "Can I stay with you?" she asked. "Absolutely, if that's what you want," I assured her. "Me too, Dad," Aaron chimed in. "You've always been there for us." "Thank you, guys. That means the world to me," I expressed. "Actually, I've requested custody of you both," I revealed. I opened my arms and they both enveloped me in a hug. We shared a heartfelt embrace, and I felt overwhelmed with joy that my children wanted to remain with me. After our tearful moment, we continued with the rest of the day, although there was an underlying sadness in the air. The following days passed without incident. George and Rhonda agreed to pick up the kids after school and stayed with us until I returned from work. I felt bad about inconveniencing them, but they were understanding and gladly lent a hand. Rhonda even prepared our dinner, which was a tremendous help. On Tuesday, I received a call from my attorney, Lisa. Linda had consulted with her own lawyer and expressed a desire to visit the children. I was apprehensive about having her at the house and feared she might do something rash, like taking off with them. "What about the restraining order?" I inquired. "If you agree, we could temporarily suspend it for a designated period, say from 9 p.m. Friday to 9 a.m. Sunday, Lisa proposed. "I know it's difficult, but appearing reasonable is crucial." "I understand. What if she visits the kids at her parents' house on Saturday?" I suggested. "I can drop them off there on Friday after school and pick them up either Saturday night or Sunday." "I'll propose that and see how her lawyer responds," Lisa agreed. "Under no circumstances should Grant or Natalie be present," I emphasized. "And there's a chance the kids might not want to see her. They're not exactly thrilled with her right now." "I'll convey that," Lisa assured me. "Anything else?" I inquired. "Yes. Her lawyer wants access to the full PI report," Lisa informed me. "I've compiled a copy and sent it over. She should receive it by Thursday at the latest." "So she's retained legal counsel?" I confirmed. "Yes, she hired Beth Sawyer on Monday," Lisa confirmed. "It's surprising since Beth detests cheaters almost as much as I do. I suspect it's because she works in the same firm as Grant's attorney. Regardless, I'll discuss it with Beth and keep you updated." The next day, Lisa informed me that Linda and her lawyer had agreed to my terms, provided I suspended the restraining order for 36 hours, from midnight Saturday to noon Sunday, and it only applied to Linda, not Grant or Natalie. They also agreed that Linda would visit with the children at her parents' house and refrain from taking them anywhere. If the kids were comfortable with the arrangement, Linda would spend the night there with them. Reluctantly, I accepted these terms, not wanting to appear unreasonable to the court. Initially, the children were hesitant, but I managed to convince them to give it a chance. George and Rhonda agreed to pick them up after school on Friday and return them to the house on Sunday afternoon after their visit. I had reservations, but I trusted George and Rhonda. George even suggested taking me to a bar to catch some sports over a beer on Saturday night. On Friday morning, I ensured the children had all they needed for the weekend. After hugging and kissing them, I drove them to school, reminding them to contact me if Grant, Natalie, or their mother tried to approach them. Only after confirming they were safely inside the building did I head to work. The following evening around 5:30, George picked me up and we headed to the Flatstick Pub, a bustling sports bar downtown. Over burgers and beers, we caught up while watching the action on the numerous screens. "Linda showed up around 9 o'clock this morning," George informed me. "It was tense initially, but things eased up a bit. The kids aren't thrilled with her and made it clear. Surprisingly, she came clean." "That's unexpected," I remarked. "She claims she still loves you. Seems like she might aim for reconciliation," George said. "Is that something you'd consider?" "I'm afraid not, George," I replied. "After 12 years of deception, it's hard to see past that." "I understand. Did you really burn her wedding dress? That gown set me back over $2,000 when you two got married," George recalled. "It felt appropriate at the time," I admitted. "She mentioned her lawyer thoroughly reviewed the PI report and gave her a stern talking to," George added. "I think she's starting to grasp your perspective." "Too little, too late," I stated. George nodded, taking a sip of his beer. Suddenly, we heard a commotion behind me. Before I could react, something struck my head and I saw stars. As I fell, I managed to dodge a subsequent blow aimed at me. "I'm going to eliminate you, you idiot," Grant's voice rang out. Seeing him looming over me, I instinctively retaliated, recalling self-defense lessons from my father. I landed a fierce kick to Grant's groin as he advanced, causing him to collapse. Seizing the opportunity, I delivered several blows to his face in rapid succession. It wasn't a calculated attack with finesse. It was raw fury, and a desire to retaliate against the man who shattered my marriage and family happiness. Unaware that Grant was already unconscious, I relentlessly struck him until 2 pairs of hands pulled me away. As I came to, I found myself in a hospital bed being examined by a doctor. My right hand was bandaged, and my left hand and forearm were in a cast. A throbbing headache plagued me. "He'll be all right," the doctor assured George. "While he'll have a headache for some time, there's no sign of a concussion. We'll administer pain relief and let him rest before discharge." "Thank you, doctor," George responded. Turning to me, he relayed the doctor's assessment. "You'll pull through. Although you're hurting, Grant came out worse. Heard he's losing a testicle, lost teeth, and nearly lost an eye. You apparently landed a solid punch on his jaw. Was that him?" "Yeah," I croaked. "How long have I been here?" "Since last night. It's now 8:30 on Sunday morning," George informed me. "Oh, and there are a couple of officers outside who want to speak with you. Ready for that?" "I might as well get it over with," I replied. George signaled the officers who entered the room. "I'm Sergeant Smith, and this is Officer Jones. We responded to your altercation at the Flatstick Pub last night." Smith introduced himself. "How are you feeling this morning, sir?" "I feel like I've been punched upside the head," I expressed to him. Smith smiled and checked his notes. "What happened last night?" he inquired. "I don't have much to share," I replied. "I was having a burger and beer with my father-in-law here. Then, suddenly, I got struck in the head. The guy threatened my life, so I defended myself." Smith nodded. "That aligns with what the witnesses reported," Smith confirmed, referring to his notes. "The surveillance footage supports your account. Do you know the assailant?" "Yes, Sergeant. His name is Grant Jacobs. I have a lawsuit against him, and he's part of my divorce proceedings," I disclosed. "Divorce?" the sergeant echoed. "Yes," I affirmed. "Got it," he jotted down in his notebook. "I assume you want to press charges." "Yes, absolutely," I asserted. "There's also a restraining order against him." "Understood," he acknowledged. "We'll look into that. We'll handle it from here, Mr. Walker. You may be approached for further questioning, so please refrain from leaving town for a while." "No problem, Sergeant," I assured him, raising my hands. He smiled and left the room with his colleague. After they departed, Rhonda, Linda, and the kids entered. "Why is she here?" I questioned, glancing at Linda. "My restraining order doesn't take effect until noon," Linda explained. "I assumed you'd be with your boyfriend," I remarked. She looked down, embarrassed. "I wanted to see you first," she admitted. "Besides, Natalie's with him and he's still recovering." I nodded, and the kids gathered around me. Sophie's eyes were watery. "Are you going to be okay, Daddy?" she asked. "I'll be all right, sweetheart," I reassured her. "I heard you really gave it to Grant last night," Aaron said with a grin. "That's the word on the street," I said, looking at George, "but it's not something to boast about. You hear me?" "Got it, Dad," Aaron replied. "Are you going to be okay, John?" Linda inquired. "He'll be fine," Sophie assured her mother. "We'll take care of him, won't we, Aaron?" "Yeah, we got this," my son affirmed. Linda glanced at our teenage children before speaking. "If you guys don't mind, I'd like to have a private chat with your father for a few minutes," she requested. They hesitated before agreeing. "Sure," Sophie said, "but we'll be just outside the door. Come on, Aaron," she added, reaching for her brother. They exited, followed by George and Rhonda. "John," Linda began after they left, "I can't express how sorry I am about everything." "Well, as I told Natalie last Saturday, sorry doesn't even scratch the surface," I stated. "You deceived and betrayed me for what, 12 years? And you think sorry is enough to make it all better? Was I that inadequate as a husband to you? All I ever did was love and support you. I don't understand." "You are the best husband and father anyone could wish for," she replied sadly. "But even that wasn't sufficient for you, was it?" I questioned. "It's not like that," she defended. "Really, that's what it seems like to me," I countered. "You don't comprehend," she insisted. "Then help me understand," I urged. "At first it was merely a means to secure my job," she confessed. "Grant indicated that having lovemaking with me was a condition for obtaining the position." "That's exploitation," I pointed out. "That's illegal. Why didn't you come to me first? We could have taken action." "Oh, I see. You were desperate for that job. So much so that you thought sleeping with Grant was a small price to pay, even if it tore apart our family." "I essentially made a pact with the devil," she admitted. "So now you're shifting blame to the devil?" I scoffed. "Give me a break. The truth is, you wanted that job so badly that you were willing to sleep with him for it, even if it cost you everything. What happened to "it's just business"? Tell me, Linda, where does the destruction of our family fit into your profit and loss statement? Huh? I'd like to know why you continued even after supposedly retiring. That was my fault, she admitted. I suppose I reached a point where I believed I could have the best of both worlds. You developed feelings for him, didn't you? That's why you persisted. How long did you plan to continue? Indefinitely? Did you truly believe I'd never discover the truth? Or did you expect me to simply acquiesce once I did? And remember, I'm aware of far more than you realize, I countered. Yes, I grew attached to him, she confessed. It became difficult not to after all those years. I assumed your love for me would allow me this indulgence. I tried my best to keep it from detracting anything from our relationship. Are you serious? I questioned, incredulous. Every moment you spent with him detracted from us. Surely you grasp the concept of opportunity cost, the forfeit of potential benefit from other options when one is chosen. You chose him over your family. Consequently, you forfeited your family. But I still love you, she insisted. My love for you never waned. But you lost respect for me, I pointed out. She appeared shocked. No, that's not true, she denied. Yes, you did, I asserted. That's why you promised him you'd continue sleeping with him indefinitely and discussed threatening to accuse me of maltreatment in a divorce. Her eyes widened. You heard that? She gasped. Yes, and more, I confirmed. For instance, you told Grant you'd prefer spending time with him over our daughter on her birthday. What kind of mother does that? What message do you think that sends to an impressionable teenager? Did you consider her feelings or Aaron's when you missed his birthday last year? She flinched at that. I suppose I failed as a wife and mother, she murmured. Your words, not mine. But if they resonate with you, I said, shrugging. By the way, I can assure your lover he won't be pursued for child support. Yes, I had DNA tests conducted, and the children are mine. She looked at me stunned. Oh my God. You thought I'd do that to you? She exclaimed. Well, you deceived me for 12 years, I reminded her. You schemed and misled me all that time, concealing your affair. What would you expect? You might also find comfort in knowing I haven't contracted anything from either of you. You may not be aware, but Grant enjoys playing the field. You're not his only conquest. I suspected, but I wasn't certain. What should I do now? She inquired. Sign the divorce papers, Linda. Put an end to this charade of a marriage. Then seek help and get your life in order. For the children's sake, I advised. I suspect you'll have ample time. I imagine Grant will be detained by the state for some time. You're probably right, she conceded. Okay, I'll sign the papers. I'm sorry, John, for everything. You've said that, I reminded her. I suppose I have, haven't I? Well, thank you for allowing me time with the kids this weekend, she acknowledged. You're welcome, I replied. I know you don't believe me, but I truly love you, she insisted. And I wish you could find it in your heart for us to reconcile. You're correct. I don't believe you. But I appreciate you saying so, I admitted. I suppose a small part of me will always care for you too. But it's insufficient. I need to be able to trust my partner. And after what you've done, I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone again. She nodded as tears streamed down her face. I get it, she murmured. Goodbye, John. She leaned in and planted a kiss on my cheek. Goodbye, Linda, I responded. She turned and exited the room, tears streaming down her face. George, Rhonda, and the kids entered after her departure. Everything okay, son? George inquired. Yeah, I assured him. We had a talk. I think she finally realizes the extent of her mistakes. Does that mean you and Mom are reconciling? Sophie asked. I shook my head. No, sweetheart, I clarified. But you both love each other, she reasoned. Love alone isn't always enough to sustain a marriage, Sophie, I explained. Trust is equally important, and right now, I don't trust her. You'll understand this someday. The doctor conducted one final check and discharged me. George drove me home with the kids. Update. Later that night, I received a frantic call from George and Linda. Natalie informed them that Linda attempted self-destruction by overdosing on sleeping pills and hard drinks. Natalie discovered her unconscious at Grant's residence while retrieving some of his belongings. A note on Linda's nightstand simply read, I'm sorry. Though she nearly succumbed to the overdose, Linda survived and spent a couple of days in the hospital. Following evaluation by mental health professionals, she was released into George and Rhonda's care, eventually relocating back in with them. Linda signed the divorce papers without contesting. Lisa informed me that I'd be legally single in 90 days. Free. Yeah, right. Grant and Natalie's attorney swiftly settled with us for half of my initial claim. Consequently, I received approximately $3.5 million after legal fees. I allocated $1 million for each child's college fund and saved the remainder. I began planning a Mediterranean cruise for the kids during their next summer vacation. Grant received a 10-year prison sentence for aggravated assault, battery, and attempted homicide based on video evidence from the attack. He'd be eligible for parole in about 8.5 years. I saw Linda during visits to George and Rhonda's home. Sometimes we'd chat briefly, but I couldn't overlook her actions. She sought counseling to understand her motives, clinging to the hope of reconciliation. I was pleased she sought help, but it felt like closing the stable door after the horses bolted. Over time, she rebuilt a relationship with the kids, which I welcomed. George mentioned she focused on writing for business blogs and refrained from dating. She expressed sadness upon learning of the cruise without her, but managed to cope, wishing us well. The kids frequently sent her text updates with photos from our travels. I met a charming woman, Nikki, from British Columbia, also on a post-divorce cruise. She was slightly younger than Linda, had shoulder-length blonde hair, and a bubbly demeanor. I enjoyed her habit of ending sentences with "eh?" She had 2 children spending the summer with grandparents in Idaho, similar in age to mine. We shared stories about our pasts and occasionally shared a bed. Sophie teased me, singing "Daddy's Got a Girlfriend" while nudging me. We exchanged contact details at the cruise's end, promising to keep in touch via email and Skype. Though uncertain of what the future held, we spoke online at least twice weekly. We adjusted to life without Linda. My employer accommodated my schedule for school runs. I knew Aaron would eventually take over driving duties once he was old enough. Shortly after our return, George visited with some unfortunate news. "They're planning to admit Linda to a mental hospital," he informed me. "Oh, why?" I inquired. "Sophie sent her a photo of you 3 having dinner with that Canadian woman you met on your cruise," he explained. I don't think Sophie meant any damage, but Linda didn't react well. She had a breakdown. Rhonda and I discovered her in the bathtub. She had cut her wrists. "Oh my God!" I gasped. "I'm sorry to hear that." I genuinely felt regretful upon learning about her self-destruction attempt, yet part of me felt a sense of validation. Now she understood a fraction of the pain I experienced when I first discovered her affair with Grant. Yeah, me too. Thankfully, she botched it and survived. But given her history, the doctors concluded she requires constant care and supervision, George shared. Rhonda and I are getting too old to watch over her around the clock. Thus, they decided to institutionalize her. "For how long?" I inquired. "It's uncertain, son," he responded. "It could be a few years. It could be indefinite. I just don't know." "Keep me updated if there's anything we can do," I offered. "Thank you, son. I appreciate it," he replied. Nikki and I sustained our long-distance relationship, and I found that our frequent conversations deepened our connection. I also caught myself daydreaming about her, a lot. She expressed sorrow upon hearing about Linda, primarily for George, Rhonda, and the children, but she echoed my sentiments. During our last conversation, she suggested visiting us with her kids or proposed I bring my children to her home, a 2-story log house situated on 50 wooded acres north of Kamloops, built in the late 1800s, she mentioned. Having never ventured north of the U.S. border, I found the idea intriguing. Who knows what, if anything, will transpire. In any case, that's a tale for another time.
Welcome to my channel, where every story comes to life. Dive into captivating narratives that spark your imagination. Let's start today. New narrative story. Elena Gilbert, 25. A passionate and artistic woman known for her resilience and empathy. She has an eye for detail and a heart full of dreams. Damon Salvatore, 27. Elena's charming and ambitious ex-fiancé, whose charisma often masks a deeper insecurity. He's used to getting what he wants, no matter the cost. Caroline Forbes, 26. Elena's cousin and best friend, known for her bubbly personality and social prowess. Beneath her confident exterior lies a fierce desire for love and approval. Stefan Salvatore, 29. Damon's older brother, a compassionate mediator who often serves as the voice of reason between the impulsive Damon and those he cares about. Setting: the quaint town of Mystic Falls, Virginia, filled with lush landscapes, historic buildings, and a vibrant community life, sets the backdrop for a story of love, betrayal, and self-discovery. It was a sunny afternoon in Mystic Falls, the kind of day that seemed to whisper promises of happiness and new beginnings. Elena Gilbert sat in the corner of a bustling cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloping her as she sketched in her notebook. The sounds of laughter and chatter faded into the background as she lost herself in her art, a temporary escape from the turmoil in her heart. Just weeks prior, she had been blissfully engaged to Damon Salvatore, a man whose charm and ambition captivated her. They had shared dreams of a bright future together, a cozy house filled with laughter and children running around. But in an instant, her world shattered when Damon ghosted her for her cousin Caroline. The betrayal cut deep, but Elena had vowed not to let it define her. Hook line. What Elena didn't know was that the very foundations of her life were about to shift, setting her on a path of revenge and unexpected empowerment. Flashback to a month earlier, at the Salvatore family's annual summer barbecue. The warm sun bathed the backyard in a golden glow, laughter echoing as friends and family mingled. Damon had been the life of the party, effortlessly charming everyone with his witty banter and radiant smile. Elena, filled with love and pride, felt invincible by his side. But then came the moment that changed everything. Elena stepped away to refill her drink, only to overhear a hushed conversation between Damon and Caroline, her best friend. She paused, her heart pounding in her chest, the words sending icy tendrils of dread down her spine. "I just don't know if I'm ready for all this," Damon said, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "You understand me in ways she doesn't." Elena's heart sank as she pieced together the truth. Damon was no longer committed to her. The rest of the party faded away as she processed the betrayal, the laughter becoming a haunting echo in her ears. Hook line. Little did Elena know that this moment of heartbreak would ignite a fire within her, one that would lead to her ultimate transformation. Days turned into weeks, and the reality of Damon's choice weighed heavily on Elena. She spent sleepless nights tossing and turning, the shadows of betrayal looming large. Each time she saw Damon and Caroline together on social media, her heart shattered all over again. Her friends rallied around her, but Elena felt isolated in her pain. Caroline, her cousin and confidant, had become a painful reminder of what she had lost. The two had always shared everything, dreams, secrets, and now a man. The bitterness brewed within her, threatening to consume her. One evening, she sat on her bed, the sketchbook open but untouched. "Why did he choose her?" she whispered into the silence, tears streaming down her cheeks. In that moment, she made a decision. She would no longer be a victim of her circumstances. She would reclaim her power. Hook line. The heartache had awakened a fierce determination within Elena. She would rise from the ashes of betrayal and take control of her life. Determined to channel her pain into creativity, Elena dove into her art. She started attending local workshops, honing her skills and expanding her network. Her talent flourished as she poured her heart into each brushstroke, capturing emotions on canvas that words could not express. It was during one of these workshops that she met Stefan Salvatore, Damon's older brother. He was supportive and understanding, and Elena found solace in their conversations. One night, over coffee, she confided in him about Damon's betrayal. "Why would he throw away something beautiful for a fleeting thrill?" she asked, frustration evident in her voice. Stefan sighed, his expression contemplative. Damon has always struggled with commitment. It's not a reflection of your worth, Elena. You deserve someone who values you. His words resonated deeply, igniting a spark of hope. Maybe it's time for me to show them what they lost, she mused aloud. Elena's resolve grew stronger as she began to formulate a plan. She remembered the joint savings account she and Damon had established for their future, a future that now felt like a distant dream. With newfound determination, she decided to reclaim what was hers. She spent hours researching financial rights and how to access joint accounts, fueled by a mixture of anger and empowerment. With Stefan's help, she gathered evidence and planned to confront Damon. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she sat down with Stefan to outline her strategy. "We'll invite them to the upcoming art exhibit," she said, her eyes gleaming with purpose. "I'll show them how far I've come, and then I'll make my move." Stefan nodded, impressed. "This could be your moment to shine, Elena." The night of the art exhibit arrived, and the gallery buzzed with excitement. Elena had poured her heart into every piece on display, each painting telling a story of resilience and transformation. Friends and family filled the room, admiring her work, but her heart raced with anticipation of Damon and Caroline's arrival. As the door swung open, she spotted them. Damon, looking dapper in a tailored suit, and Caroline, radiant and confident. They made their way through the crowd, laughing and flirting, completely unaware of the storm brewing just beneath Elena's calm exterior. Elena took a deep breath, stepping forward to greet them. "Hey, you two, so glad you could make it," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Wow, Elena, your work is incredible," Caroline gushed, a hint of jealousy in her tone. Damon nodded, but Elena could see the tension behind his charming smile. "Yeah, really impressive," he said, trying to sound sincere. Hook line. As the evening unfolded, Elena knew she had them right where she wanted them. As the night progressed, Elena's confidence grew. She mingled with guests, receiving compliments and praise for her art. When the moment felt right, she gathered her courage and approached Damon and Caroline, who were admiring one of her larger pieces, a stunning portrayal of a phoenix rising from the ashes. "This one is about transformation," Elena explained, her voice steady. "It's about overcoming adversity and reclaiming your power." Damon smirked, his arrogance on full display. "Looks like someone is trying to make a statement." Elena met his gaze, her heart racing. "You have no idea what I've been through, Damon. But I've learned to rise above it." Caroline rolled her eyes, clearly uncomfortable. "Let's not make this about you, Elena. We're happy together now." Hook line. Little did they know, Elena was just getting started. As the night wore on, Elena felt a surge of adrenaline. She had prepared for this moment, and now it was time to confront Damon about the savings account. With a steady breath, she gathered her courage and addressed them in front of a small group of friends. "Damon, Caroline, can we talk about our savings account?" she asked, her tone firm. Damon's expression shifted, his charming facade cracking. "What about it?" "I want what's mine," Elena declared, her voice unwavering. "You may have chosen each other, but I will not let you take my hard-earned money along with my heart." The room fell silent, and all eyes were on them. Damon's bravado faded, and Elena could see the panic in his eyes. "You can't be serious." "I am," she replied. "I've worked too hard to let you both walk away with everything." Caroline stepped forward, her defensiveness evident. "You don't have to be bitter, Elena. Just move on." Elena's resolve hardened. "This isn't about bitterness. This is about reclaiming what I deserve." The confrontation escalated, and as Elena laid out the facts about their joint account, Damon's composure faltered. The realization hit him hard. He had underestimated her. "You wouldn't dare take me to court over this," he challenged, trying to regain control. Elena smiled, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. "Watch me." With that, she turned on her heels and walked away, leaving Damon and Caroline speechless. The thrill of empowerment coursed through her veins as she reveled in the moment. She had finally stood up for herself. After the exhibit, Elena's confidence soared. She received messages from friends and even potential buyers interested in her artwork. But the best surprise came in the form of a text from Stefan. "Let's celebrate your victory. Dinner tomorrow?" Elena agreed, excited to share her triumph with someone who genuinely cared. Over dinner, they talked about everything: art, life, and their shared experiences. Stefan's support meant the world to her, and as they laughed, she felt a connection blooming. Hook line. But amidst the joy, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. Elena's D. Why зрение Елена не могла отряхнуть чувство, что настоящая битва только начинается. Elena's determination grew as she consulted a lawyer about the savings account. The legal process was daunting, filled with paperwork and anxiety. She spent late nights preparing for her case, driven by the desire to reclaim what was hers. Meanwhile, Damon's facade began to crumble. He struggled to maintain his charm in the face of mounting pressure, and Caroline found herself caught in the middle. Their relationship faltered as they navigated the fallout of Elena's actions. Elena, on the other hand, found strength in her art. She poured her emotions into her paintings, creating pieces that resonated with others. Each stroke of the brush felt like a release, a way to channel her pain and anger into something beautiful. The day of the court hearing arrived, and Elena stood outside the courthouse, her heart racing. She wore a tailored suit that exuded confidence, but inside she felt a whirlwind of emotions. This was it, the moment she had been preparing for. As she entered the courtroom, she spotted Damon and Caroline. Their expressions were a mix of defiance and fear. Elena took her seat, determined to show them that she wouldn't back down. The hearing commenced, and Elena presented her case with clarity and conviction. She highlighted the contributions she had made to their joint savings, emphasizing her right to reclaim her share. Damon's lawyer tried to discredit her, but she stood firm, refusing to let their tactics intimidate her. Hook line. As the judge deliberated, Elena's heart raced. This was the moment of truth. After what felt like an eternity, the judge returned with a verdict. "The court rules in favor of Elena Gilbert," he declared. "She is entitled to her rightful share of the joint savings account." A wave of relief washed over Elena, and she couldn't help but smile. Damon's expression shifted from disbelief to anger, and Caroline looked equally stunned. Elena stood tall, her heart swelling with pride. She had fought for herself and won. With her savings reclaimed, Elena channeled her energy into her art career. She organized more exhibits, gaining recognition and support from the community. Her journey had transformed her into a beacon of strength, inspiring others to embrace their own stories of resilience. Stefan remained a constant presence in her life, offering encouragement and friendship. As they spent more time together, a deeper bond blossomed between them. They found solace in shared experiences, and Elena began to feel hope for love again. Months later, Damon approached Elena at a local art festival. He looked weary, the weight of his choices etched on his face. "Elena, can we talk?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena's heart raced, a mix of anger and curiosity flooding her senses. "What is there to talk about, Damon?" "I messed up," he admitted, sincerity in his eyes. "I thought I wanted something different, but I realized I lost the best thing I ever had. You." Hook line. In that moment, Elena faced the ghosts of her past, ready to reclaim her narrative. Elena took a deep breath, steadying herself. "You made your choice, Damon. I've moved on, and I won't let you pull me back into your drama." As she walked away, she felt a sense of liberation wash over her. She had transformed from a heartbroken woman into a fierce, independent artist, reclaiming her identity and her life. In the months that followed, Elena continued to thrive. She found love in unexpected places, and her art flourished as she poured her heart into each canvas. She learned that happiness wasn't found in the approval of others, but in the embrace of her own dreams. Thank you for joining me on this journey of love, betrayal, and self-discovery. If you have any thoughts or questions about the story, I'd love to hear them. Please like, share, and comment below. Remember, every ending is just a new beginning, and we all have the power to rise above our challenges.